Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Bhagwan Birsa Munda sacrificed everything to protect the pride and dignity of India, says Prime Minister Modi. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Modi lead the nation in paying tributes to the tribal icon. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils key projects for the tribal community. Sri Lanka's ruling coalition secures two-thirds majority in election in a landslide victory. Elon Musk meets Iran's United Nations ambassador, meeting to diffuse Iran-US tensions under Trump. India all set to take on South Africa at the fourth and final T20 International at the Wanderers Stadium today. India leads the series 2-1. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Jamui in Bihar today, where he inaugurated and laid the foundation stone for multiple development projects worth over 6,600 crore rupees on the occasion of the commemoration of the Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, India's Tribal Pride Day. The projects, which are dedicated to Bhagwan Birsa Munda, are aimed at uplifting tribal communities and improving infrastructure in rural and remote areas of the region. Prime Minister Modi also launched the 150th birth anniversary year celebrations of tribal icon Bhagwan Birsa Munda by releasing commemorative stamp. PM also unveiled a commemorative coin on the occasion, highlighting the important role of tribal groups in preserving India's heritage and advancing its progress. India's Prime Minister also inaugurated an exhibition based on the life of Bhagwan Birsa Munda and rich tribal heritage and culture. PM also inaugurated 2 tribal freedom fighters museums and 2 tribal research institutes, which are intended to preserve the rich history and heritage of tribal communities. The PM attended the Griha Pravesh of 11,000 houses built under the PM Jan Man campaign in the virtual mode from Jamui. On this occasion, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke of the permanent houses being made for tribals and how this will help in the empowerment of the tribal community.
मेरे आदिवासी भाई बहनों के लिए करीब 1.5 लाख पक्के घरों के स्वीकृति पत्र है। आदिवासी बच्चों का भविष्य संवारने वाले स्कूल है, हॉस्टल है, आदिवासी महिलाओं के लिए स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं हैं, आदिवासी क्षेत्रों को जोड़ने वाली सैकड़ों किलोमीटर की सड़कें हैं, आदिवासी संस्कृति को समर्पित म्यूजियम है, रिसर्च सेंटर है। आज 11,000 से अधिक आदिवासी परिवारों का अपने नए घर में देव दीपावली के दिन गृह प्रवेश भी हो रहा है।
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's early years were marked by extensive travels on foot, bicycle and motorcycle through remote tribal areas. Prime Minister Modi had many experiences that helped him understand the struggles of tribal communities firsthand, and he inspired them to work tirelessly towards their inclusive growth. During one of his travels to a small village, the Indian Prime Minister visited the humble hut of a Swayam Sevak who lived with his wife and young son, where he realized the deep reality of poverty and hunger in his country. In his younger days, Narendra Modi once gave a speech so impactful that businessmen offered blank checks for tribal welfare. Highlighting the challenges of tribal and marginalized communities, he called for introspection and action. In the year 2000, Prime Minister discussed social inclusivity using the story of Lord Ram, specifically mentioning the Vanar Sena and Mata Shabri. Even today, Narendra Modi's message on social inclusivity using cultural heritage remains consistent. So, as India is celebrating the birth anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, or India's Tribal Pride Day, India's President Draupadi Murmu, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar and other eminent dignitaries paid floral tribute to Bhagwan Birsa Munda at the Parliament premises. Bhagwan Birsa Munda fought bravely against the exploitative system of the British colonial system and spearheaded the movement against British oppression, giving a call for revolution. Before 2014, India's tribal communities faced an uphill battle with their struggles, largely invisible to the nation. However, the picture changed totally under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Major reforms were seen in the field of healthcare, education and economic fields. The struggles that once defined the lives of tribal communities are now being addressed with urgency and care.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has left no stone unturned to empower the tribal communities. For decades, these people were overlooked and left without the support and access to health services. Basic amenities such as healthcare, education, and economic opportunities were either minimal or non-existent. Providing them with these basic amenities were prioritized by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. Tribal children who once had little hope of going to school are now attending classes in schools that are equipped with modern facilities, digital classrooms, and sports infrastructure. Today, 715 schools have been sanctioned and 476 are already functional with a student count of over 1.33 lakh students. Scholarships worth 17,000 crore rupees have further empowered over 3 crore tribal students. Access to proper healthcare facilities were also beyond reach before 2014. However, the picture has changed since Prime Minister Modi's government took over. Mobile medical units now reach the remotest corners of tribal areas. Over 1.5 crore toilets have been built in tribal areas, improving sanitation and reducing the spread of diseases. A nationwide push to eradicate sickle cell anemia, a disease that disproportionately affects tribal communities, has been a significant achievement under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Initiatives such as National Bamboo Mission have opened new avenues for tribal families to harvest, process, and sell bamboo. One Dhan Vikas Kendras have also supported over 45 lakh tribal beneficiaries, helping them add value to forest produce and boost their incomes. These initiatives are paving the way for a brighter and more inclusive future for India's tribal population. Nikita's report for DD India.
And next news from Sri Lanka. The alliance of a new leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake secured a landslide victory as it got a two-thirds majority in the parliament. The leftist coalition, the National People's Power, has performed exceedingly well as compared to the September presidential election. Here's more.
Sri Lankans on Friday handed Anura Kumara Dissanayake-led National People's Party a thumping win in a snap general election, as it crossed the majority mark of 113, giving its new president greater legislative power to pursue his reform agenda and policies to fight graft as the country recovers from a financial meltdown. The leftist coalition has performed exceedingly well as compared to the September presidential election, where it had secured only 42% votes. The coalition has performed well across the island. The votes secured by opposition parties led by Sajit Premadasa and former President Ranil Wickremesinghe have been relegated to the sidelines with a hugely reduced verdict. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, which romped home to a landslide victory in previous parliamentary elections, has been pushed to fourth position with its vote share dwindling to just 3%. Earlier on Thursday, voting was held across the island with a turnout of about 65%. With inputs from Dr. Ahmed Muin Faruqi in Colombo. Bureau Report, DD India.
And DD India's Ahmed Moin Faruqi joins us for more from Colombo. Dr. Faruqi, what explains the splendid performance of the NPP in the parliamentary elections as compared to September's presidential elections? And why has the Sri Lanka Podijana Peramuna fared so very badly?
Okay, there are multiple reasons here. To begin with, there was a strong desire among the people, a desire for change. They had rejected the old guard as was visible in the presidential elections, but this time around it got reinforced because immediately after assuming the position as the president, the leader of NPP, Kumar Dissanayake, had started taking efforts towards making changes in the government sector. In the government setup itself, he was bringing in more transparency, and that was something which kind of resonated among the people. That's one. Secondly, the vote share which was visible in presidential election at 42%, it has now this time around in the parliamentary elections has gone up to 61.56%. It's a major jump of almost 20%. And this shows that people have actually thought about the future of Sri Lanka, and that decisive kind of a mandate is necessary in the parliament to the existing government. And that's the reason why there is a possibility that certain of the floating votes or the fence-sitter votes have also shifted towards the NPP. Now, if we look at the results carefully, the National People's Power has secured more than 2/3 the total strength of the parliament. The parliament's total capacity is 225, and National People's Power has now 159 seats. This is by far the best performance by any party or alliance in the new system that was adopted from 1978 in the parliamentary elections in the entire history of Sri Lanka. Now, this is something which is remarkable. It's a historic kind of an achievement. The entire island, except for one electoral district, has voted decisively in favor of National People's Power. That's how it appears like that.
And what are likely to be the principal reforms that President Dissanayake will now vigorously pursue? And now, how likely is he to succeed both in the reforms and in his policies to fight graft?
You see, the graft issue was something which was going on in Sri Lanka for quite a long time. Several of the previous regimes have been under considerable attack from various organizations. In fact, also the people have been talking about corruption-related issues in Sri Lanka. And that's something which was very high on the agenda of the voters during these two elections, both these elections, presidential as well as parliamentary elections. Now, with a decisive mandate, the president as well as his government will have considerable say with regard to revamping and reforming the entire system in the government, making things more transparent and accountable. They have also talked about investigations into the previous instances where several rules were violated by ministers as well as the governments in the previous instances by the predecessors. Now, this is something which is very interesting to note, because once the investigations get completed and if found guilty, probably this will lead to considerable kind of relief among the people that those who are accountable have been brought to book. Now, this is something which the NPP has been talking about during the campaign. Now, it needs to be seen how they would go ahead with implementing these reforms. That's one. Secondly, the economic reforms are something which people had been talking about. The cost of living was something which was very high ever since the peak of economic crisis witnessed in 2022. Food and fuel prices had gone to a very alarming level. In fact, the inflation had hit a high of 70%, the effects of which are visible even to this day. And this is where people have been hoping that some tax relief as well as relaxation in the austerity measures adopted by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's government will probably be adopted during this government. And this is where a parliamentary majority will definitely come in handy for the current government as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi, giving us all those perspective on the results from Colombo. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US President-elect Donald Trump selects Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health Secretary, Todd Blanche to be the Deputy Attorney General. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un orders mass production of suicide drones amid a rapidly developing military cooperation with Russia. And the 25th Latin Grammy Awards celebrate the global rise of Latin music.
issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. US President-elect Donald Trump has been selecting his top team since winning the election last week, with 4 names announced recently. Trump picked 3 members of his legal defense team, including lead attorney Todd Blanche, to serve in the senior roles at the Justice Department. Trump nominated Blanche, who defended him at hush money trial this year. He will serve as Deputy Attorney General, the second highest position at the Justice Department of the new Trump administration. Earlier, Trump announced the name of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the United States' top health agency. In a post on X, Kennedy vowed to work to end chronic disease, clean up corruption, and provide Americans with the data they need to make informed decisions, vowing to Trump that he would work to make America healthy again. Kennedy ran for president in this year's election as an independent before dropping out in August and endorsing Trump in exchange for a role in the Republicans' administration. Trump has also nominated former U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton to serve as Manhattan's top federal prosecutor. Clayton, a lawyer at Sullivan and Cromwell who specializes in mergers and capital raising, is a political independent who developed a reputation while at the SEC for trying to forge consensus with the agency's Democratic commissioners. President-elect Donald Trump later announced that he plans to select North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum as his nominee to be the Secretary of the Department of Interior. He has been a North Dakota governor for 2 times since 2016. He is a mature U.S. politician having a business background in software, real estate and venture capital. Holding a master's in business administration from the Stanford University School of Business, he is an old Trump ally. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on Thursday praised Argentinian President Javier Milei for the job he's done in his home country, calling on Milei to make Argentina great again. Trump was speaking at a gala at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida retreat, which was attended by the Argentine president, who delivered a speech before Trump's comments. The fall in Argentina's country risk a measure of investment exposure is crucial to the country's access to international credit. This comes as the country prepares to renegotiate a massive $44 billion loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund due in December.
Javier, I'd like to congratulate you on the job you've done for Argentina. Your speech was beautiful, but the job you've done is incredible. Make Argentina great again. You know, MAGA. He's a MAGA person.
With the US President Donald Trump poised to assume office in January, diplomatic overtures appear to be accelerating to address escalating Middle East tensions, signaling a do-it-now or face-it-later approach. This sentiment was echoed through significant back-channel meetings and proposals aimed at easing the multifaceted Israel-Hamas-Hezbollah conflict and broader regional instability. DD India's Akhilesh Suman has more.
US media is reporting that President-elect Donald Trump's team is engaging with key persons on the diplomatic front. According to the New York Times, on November 11th, tech billionaire Elon Musk, known for his close ties to President-elect Donald Trump, held a meeting with Iran's ambassador to the UN, Amir Saeed Iravani. The meeting, described by Iranian sources as positive, lasted over an hour. The New York Times reports the encounter as a critical first step in fostering US-Iran diplomacy under the incoming administration. The Musk-Iravani dialogue hints at a departure from the more aggressive policies of the Republican establishment. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has previously expressed openness to mending ties with the West, adding further weight to this engagement. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is pursuing last-ditch efforts to mediate between Lebanon and Israel. On Thursday, U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Dorothy Shee, presented a draft truce proposal to Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri. Sources indicate this is Washington's first formal written attempt in weeks to halt fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut confirmed ongoing diplomatic efforts, while Israel's energy minister highlighted an increasingly promising outlook for a ceasefire. In a parallel development, senior Lebanese officials signaled Hezbollah's willingness to withdraw forces from the Israeli border under specific conditions. This renewed diplomatic push comes amid relentless violence. Israel has intensified its military campaign in Lebanon alongside its operations in Gaza. Key to any ceasefire is adherence to UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which calls for Hezbollah to withdraw fighters and weapons from border areas. The US and other powers view this resolution as the foundation for peace, though its implementation remains fraught with challenges. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
Now, Peru is set to host US President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit this week. Biden's meeting with Xi Jinping is the final major international summit of his presidency. Biden's trip to South America comes a day after he met with President-elect Donald Trump in the White House. Joe Biden arrived on Thursday in Peru to start his 6-day visit for the final major international summits of his presidency. Joe Biden will meet this week with Chinese President Xi Jinping in what may be the last important bilateral of his tenure. This will be the third in-person meeting between the two leaders who met earlier in Indonesia's Bali at the G20 summit in 2022 and again in California during the APEC summit in 2023. Biden will also hold private meetings with the heads of Japan, South Korea and Brazil on the sidelines of APEC and G20 summits. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed the meeting, describing it as an effort to responsibly manage the US-China competition and avoid escalation.
With respect to his meeting with President Xi, I don't expect him to pass messages. Obviously, President Trump, when he comes into office, will have his opportunity to engage directly with President Xi. But I will observe that transitions are uniquely consequential moments in geopolitics. They're a time when competitors and adversaries can see possibly opportunity because you have this change in government here. And so part of what President Biden will communicate is that we need to maintain stability, clarity, predictability through this transition between the United States and China. And he will also really reinforce the point that in order for us to manage this competition responsibly going forward, we have to sustain over the long term the channels of communication at every level, particularly the military-to-military level.
Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Lima to participate in the APEC summit. Jinping inaugurated a massive deep water port in Peru, a $1.3 billion investment by Beijing. From Lima, Xi is scheduled to travel to Brazil for an annual meeting of the G20 and attend a state visit with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on November 20th. Biden and Jinping's meeting, set for Saturday on the sidelines of the APEC summit, serve as a bookend to the president's high-stakes attempts to position the United States against an increasingly assertive Beijing. Bureau Report, DD India. The United Nations nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi met Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian for the first time since Pezeshkian was elected in July. The president told Grossi that his government was prepared to cooperate with the IAEA to clear up alleged ambiguities about Tehran's nuclear work. On his trip to Tehran, Grossi also held a joint press conference with Iran's nuclear chief. Trump's return to office as US president in January appends nuclear diplomacy with Iran, which had stalled under the outgoing administration of Joe Biden after months of indirect talks. During Trump's previous tenure, Washington ditched a 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and 6 world powers that curbed Tehran's nuclear work in exchange for relief from international sanctions. This comes as Israeli army continued its offensive on Hezbollah-controlled suburbs in Beirut's southern areas as well as in Syria. Israeli military claimed that they were targeting weapons warehouses and other Hezbollah sites. The military spokesperson on Thursday said that they will attack any attempt to bring arms to Hezbollah from Syria. The statement came after Syria's state news agency reported an Israeli airstrike in Syria hitting a bridge near the border with northern Lebanon.
We are identifying rockets and other weapons that Hezbollah is launching at Israeli territory that were manufactured in Syria and were given to Hezbollah from Syria. We will attack every attempt to bring weapons from Syria to Hezbollah, and we will attack all infrastructure we identify in Syria whose purpose is to produce weapons for Hezbollah.
Meanwhile, Hezbollah claimed to have targeted a military intelligence base in Israel's Tel Aviv. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un guided a test of suicide drones and ordered mass production of this aerial weapon. Kim said that the introduction of such drones around the world requires an urgent update of military theory. Photographs of Kim looking at these drones were released, and he was quoted as saying that the completion for using drones for military purposes is accelerating around the world, with military authorities likely recognizing their success in conflicts of various scale. Kim had previously supervised the test of suicide drones earlier in the year amid a rapidly developing military cooperation with Russia. It raised questions as to whether he was receiving technical help from Moscow to develop them. And next, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Tokyo Metropolitan Police arrested a 65-year-old American on suspicion of carving alphabetical characters into the pillar of a torii gate of the Meiji Jingu Shrine. It marks the latest example of Japan's struggle to cope with misbehaving visitors amid a boom in inbound tourism. Thousands joined a march towards New Zealand's national capital on Friday after a contentious bill that would reinterpret the country's 184-year-old founding document passed in its first hurdle in Parliament. First signed in 1840 between the British Crown and more than 500 Maori chiefs, the treaty lays down how the two parties agreed to govern, and the interpretation of the clauses in the document still guides legislation and policy today. The Ibero-American Summit kicked off in Cuenca on Thursday night under the motto of Innovation, Inclusion and Sustainability. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa inaugurated the summit at the Pumapungo Museum. The King of Spain, Felipe VI, was also present for the opening ceremony. Access to employment, education, strengthening connectivity and the use of new technologies will be considered during this summit. And the 25th Latin Grammy Awards celebrated a major milestone on Thursday, spotlighting the global rise of Latin music. Top artists like Marc Anthony, Karol G and Carlos Vives walked the red carpet. This Latin Grammys stood as a tribute to the genre's enduring appeal and cultural significance, marking Latin music's transformation from regional roots to global recognition. Still to come on DD India News Hour. With the PM Modi set to visit Nigeria, DD India speaks to Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria in Abuja on what to expect from the trip.
We are doing a deep dive into security dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region, and also what this means going into the future for India and its rising position in the world.
The Quad has now become a foundational block within the Indo-Pacific, and the Biden administration has continued that momentum. Now, I don't see Trump Part 2 walking away from that, again, because it's something that they helped to resurrect.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. A quick relook of the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Bhagwan Birsa Munda sacrificed everything to protect the pride and dignity of India, says Prime Minister Modi. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Modi lead the nation in paying tribute to the tribal icon. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils key projects for the tribal community in Bihar. Sri Lanka's ruling coalition secures a two-thirds majority in the election in a landslide victory. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will begin his three-nation visit to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana from Saturday. The Indian Prime Minister will travel to Rio de Janeiro for 2 days on November 18th to attend the G20 summit, before which the Prime Minister would be visiting Nigeria, making it the first visit by a Prime Minister of India to the West African nation in 17 years. DD India's Vishal Barrister caught up with the Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria in Abuja to find out more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming to Nigeria, and I have with me the Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. G. Balasubramaniam. Let's talk to him and find out more about this visit. Mr. Balasubramaniam, welcome to DD India.
Namaste.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is reaching here. So, what do you have to say about this visit?
It's a very important visit. For our Prime Minister, this would be his first visit to West Africa, and he's starting it with Nigeria, which is the largest population in Africa. We have so many similarities, and I would talk about it further. But this is a very important visit which is taking place after 17 years. The last visit was by Dr. Manmohan Singh, the then Prime Minister, in 2007. And given the fact that there's a strong relationship that has been going on, a historical relationship between our two countries, we consider this as one of the most important. And the hosts are also very enthusiastic in receiving our Prime Minister.
India has emerged the leader of the Global South. This visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Nigeria would be followed by the G20 summit in Brazil. How do you see to it?
You know, when we had taken over the presidency of G20, our Prime Minister had invited Nigeria as a guest country. Given the very strong relationship that we have with them since 1958, we actually started our relationship with Nigeria 2 years before their independence. So that is the importance that we have been giving them, which has been, and the relationship has been nurtured very well. When we had invited them for G20, it was the first time that Nigeria came onto that platform, and they are very happy and they are very thankful to India for giving them this platform. During our G20 presidency, when President Tinubu visited India, our Prime Minister had a bilateral meeting with him. So this meeting is a follow-up of that. And taking cue from India's invitation, Nigeria has again been invited to go to Brazil for G20, where Brazil has invited it as a guest country. So this is a second time that Nigeria is going. So they also consider India as the person who had brought out this particular honor for Nigeria. So it's a very important one. As leader of Global South, we have been having strong relations with Nigeria. They had participated in all the meetings that we had during G20 and during the VOGSS, which our Prime Minister had organized, the 3 VOGSS that our Prime Minister organized. So we do see that the relationship has grown further after that invitation, and it will continue to further grow.
What are the major takeaways from this visit, and how do you see India and Nigeria relations getting stronger with this visit?
You very clearly pointed out that India is the leader of the Global South and Nigeria is one of the major players in the Global South. Between India and Nigeria, the relationship is quite strong in the sense that we have many similarities. Both of us are multilinguistic, multicultural, multi-religious societies, large populations in our respective areas. So there are too many things that are common between us. The growth trajectories Nigeria would like to follow India. This visit, we hope that it will further consolidate the ties between our two countries. It can harmonize, both our countries can harmonize our positions in the international fora, the multi-regional thing. There would be further input into the existing strong bilateral trade and economic relations. We have a huge Indian population which is here. In West Africa, we have the largest over here. And this would also further boost them. We have many Indian companies which are here, which have invested more than $27 billion into the Nigerian economy. This visit will consolidate our ties both in the political field, in the international arena, our cooperation in the international arena, people-to-people contact and cultural ties.
Could you shed some more light on the MOUs to be signed and also the bilaterals during this visit?
Yes, we do have a bilateral, of course, with the Prime Minister would be meeting the President on 17th morning. They would be having a one-to-one talk, a tete-a-tete between them, followed by delegation level talks, followed by some of the MOUs that would be exchanged. We are looking at the possibility and signing MOUs in the fields of customs, in the fields of digital economy, in the fields of surveyor general, in survey cooperation, and also in one more area where we will be. So culture, customs and digital economy are major areas in which we are looking at the possibility of having the MOUs.
High Commissioner, talking about the digital economy and also the agreement on that. So can we expect that next time we are visiting Nigeria, we can make UPI payments?
Negotiations are on between both the countries, and I'm sure we would be proceeding towards that.
India is the world power as far as the pharma sector is concerned, and India also has the advantage of 70% of the Nigerian market. So how do you see, taking cue of from Nigeria, Indian companies spreading across the African continent, especially in the pharmaceutical sector?
You're very right. India is the pharmacy of the world, and Indian pharmaceutical products are very popular over here, both because of its affordability and because of its efficacy. Indian companies have invested more than $4 billion in Nigeria alone in manufacturing pharmaceutical products in the country. And in other parts of Africa also, there is a huge demand for the Indian products. Indian products are the market leader in most of the countries, and many countries have started investing in, I look after Benin Republic also. Some of our Indian pharmaceutical companies have started investing there in manufacturing so that they can supply it to the West African region subsequently. And in other parts also they are doing it.
Nigeria is the key oil producing country, and India with its expertise in oil refining. How do you see the two complement each other as far as the oil sector is concerned?
We already are working very closely in the oil sector. Nigeria had been one of our largest oil suppliers. We used to buy nearly about $10 billion of oil, which because of various geopolitical reasons, there's a small change in that. Being one of the largest refineries in the world, we have been supplying them aviation fuel, kerosene and other refined petroleum products. So this is a two-way relationship that we are having, and I'm sure energy is something in which both the countries wish to cooperate and continue to further consolidate. It will only further grow.
Now talking about the aviation fuel, are we also looking at the defense cooperation between the two countries?
There is already an ongoing defense cooperation. I should inform your viewers basically that the National Defense Academy of Nigeria was set up by Indians. Our officers had actually come here, set up the institution, trained the military for many years and then handed it over to them. Similarly, the Naval War College in Port Harcourt has also been done in collaboration with India, and training has been done. Capacity building has been one of our stronger points, including in the military field. We have sent many Nigerian military officers over a period of many years to India for training, whether it is in NDC or in the other specialized courses, including in counterinsurgency. And we have even sent the military teams to Nigeria for training the trainers over here. The last one was de-inducted in 2022 December. So there is a very good ongoing cooperation on the defense training part of it. And on supplies and other things, there are things which are happening which would continue to grow.
Now, as you spoke about the defense cooperation, I would like to further ask you about India's defense production. India is fast becoming an exporter in the field of defense. So is Nigeria also one of the markets that we are looking at?
Certainly. We have already supplied close to about $280 million worth of various equipments, including simulators, ammunition and so on and so forth. And Indian products are looked very favorably in Nigeria. We had a defense team come over here, defense manufacturers team come over here in the month of March. They had participated in an exhibition. They had identified certain areas in which they are working together. We have also offered some lines of credit in terms of purchase of some of our platforms. So these are things which are ongoing, and I'm sure will fructify in the near future.
Well, absolutely. Just to add to that, the MSMEs and the private sector are playing a major role in India's defense sector. So are we also in touch with the Indian companies as far as Nigeria is concerned?
Yes, absolutely. As I told you, in the month of March, we had a large number of defense manufacturers come over here and cooperate with, they participated in one of the exhibitions. Even in the embassy grounds, we had set up an exhibition which was visited by large number of military personnel from the Nigerian side. MSMEs, they have working with other companies in Nigeria to set up joint ventures and to also supply from India. This is an ongoing process. We would have to wait and see how they mature.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always focused on people-to-people contact. So how important is the role of the Indian diaspora both in the development of Nigerian economy and also for the development of the relationship between the two countries?
Indian companies have been present here for many decades. More than 200 Indian companies have invested $27 billion into the Nigerian economy. We, meaning the Indian companies, are the second largest employers of Nigerians after the federal government of Nigeria. I have visited many factories and I have seen the second generation actually working in that company. So, Indian companies have very positively in almost every manufacturing sector and in service sector impacted the Nigerian economy. They have been working with the families, many thousands of families have benefited out of it and cooperating with them. So, both in the economy and in the social sector, Indian companies have played a major role. Their presence has actually, they are the ambassadors on the ground, I would say, and the manner in which they have worked here, they have contributed to the economy. There's a lot of goodwill that has been generated, and the Indians, about 50,000 of them are here. Most of them working in companies, many of them owning companies, many of them as MDs and CMDs of various multinational companies over here. So they have evinced a great deal of respect amongst the Nigerian community, which certainly helps consolidating our bilateral relations.
Well, certainly. High Commissioner, talking about Indian companies, you've already mentioned the pharma sector. What are the other sectors if you would like to mention?
Almost all the FMCG sectors, all the manufacturing part of it, whether it is in oil sector, whether it is in leather, whether it is pharmaceuticals or in plastics, almost all the plastic companies, many of the Indian companies own it. Software side, some in the hardware side. So the power sector, that these are, you name any area of human endeavor, Indian companies have a role to play in the Nigerian economy, using the technology of India, using the production base from India.
Now, talking about Bollywood, it has been our strength, especially Nigeria, when we talk about Nigeria, and I've been talking to people. Many years back, I met a friend from Nigeria and she spoke about film stars like Dharmendra, and they are so very popular here. Now, Nollywood and Bollywood, how do you see to it?
There's a close cooperation happening between Nollywood and Bollywood. Bollywood is the largest film producer in the world. Nollywood is the second largest. They have Kannywood and other places because northern Nigeria develops its own film field. Nollywood in southern part of Nigeria prepares their own. And there have been two joint productions also. One is called as Masala Wahala. And the other is a web series called as Postcards, which have already happened. Both the governments are also working very closely, and we are very close to finalizing an audio-visual joint production between the two countries, which would facilitate further cooperation. In the northern part of Nigeria, I can say that Indian soap operas, all Indian movies and the TV serials are so famous that most of the women are glued to the Z World and Z Cinema in the north, and many over there speak very good Hindi. Just by learning, they have learnt it just by seeing the Bollywood movies. So the cooperation is very good. They are also looking at the creative economy as a major area for wealth development and also generation of work. Our Bollywood has got very strong position in the creative economy, particularly on the software side, in special effects and so on and so forth. There's a lot of activities taking place between private parties, obviously in the Bollywood and Nollywood area, where they are looking at joint production, working together, shooting in India and shooting in Nigeria, so on and so forth. So there's a whole new world waiting there for the cooperation between the two sides.
The visit is happening after 17 years, and this would be the first visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So what kind of events can we expect, and what has been the response from the Indian diaspora and also from the Nigerian government? What are the special arrangements made for this special visit?
The Indian community is very enthusiastic. They are thrilled that our Prime Minister is coming over to Nigeria, and with the popularity of our Prime Minister, they are waiting to see him. There's a community event which we are organizing during the visit of our Prime Minister, in which more than 1,000 people would have been invited, and there's a lot of requests coming in for more, but accommodation is only limited. So there's a huge buzz. Indian community, I'm told, has are placing advertisements in the newspaper inviting our Prime Minister, welcoming him, also placing billboards all across the country. There's a huge buzz that has been created, unlike any other visit that I have seen in the past 2.5 years that I have been here.
So there you heard the High Commissioner. Both the Indian diaspora and also the people of Nigeria are so very excited about this upcoming visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. With cameraman Ravinder and Moor Mukut in Abuja, this is Vishal Baristo for DT India.
So that was the Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria, G. Balasubramaniam, in conversation with DT India's Vishal Baristo. You're watching DT India News Hour, still to come on the show. Adoption of AI and machine learning on the agenda at the 6th edition of Geo India 2024, India's premier mega geoscience conference. And Guru Nanak Jayanti or Guru Purab being celebrated with religious fervour across India and the world today.
Our habitats are turning into concrete jungles, and that is concerning, but there is hope even in this grim reality.
Our rivers are like lifelines. They are spaces for humans, for biodiversity, and yes, we have neglected them so far, but really that's an opportunity for us to restore them to their natural conditions.
We now have species that can adapt by conserving the water they have instead of letting it evaporate and being easy to care for.
We have always been farmers in my family. We used to do chemical farming with hybrid seed varieties, but now we have switched to organic farming with natural seeds.
This embankment will be removed and the river will be widened to cover the grassland up to the wider flood embankments on both the Swiss and Austrian side.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Geo India 2024, India's premier mega geoscience conference with the theme Exploring New Dimensions of Energy Dynamics is underway in Greater Noida. The 6th edition touches upon adoption of AI and machine learning in the exploration sector as we adapt to a changing global energy ecosystem. DT India's Anil Thomas has the details.
India's premier geoscience conference and exhibition, Geo India 2024, begins in Greater Noida for the next 3 days. The premier South Asian conference and exhibition takes a broader look at the role of geoscience towards energy independence and adapting to a changing global energy ecosystem.
We have gone up from 6% of the sedimentary basin exploitation in 2014 to 10%. And when we finish the current rounds of OALP, Open Acreage Licensing Policy, we will take it up to 16%. We are trying to catch up and make up for the somewhat tardy or slow focus and implementation in the past.
Themed Exploring New Dimensions of Energy Dynamics, this edition will touch upon adoption of AI and machine learning. The 3-day event provides a unique forum for geoscience professionals, business groups, and stakeholders to find solutions, compress the time cycle, and the need for collaborative efforts for oil exploration.
Moving from a very convoluted NELP regime to a very, very open revenue sharing mechanism, limiting regulators' role to a large extent, so that India is seen as is also helping us in doing ease of doing business.
Through 5 editions, Geo India has traced the industry's journey from exploring new frontiers to embracing energy transition and decarbonization, with the 6th edition highlighting South Asia's role in sustainable geosciences.
Now we are trying to become the bridge between the industry from where we are and also from the academia, because we have a lot of projects which have been sponsored to the academia.
The biggest rush in the Geo India 2024 is the students program, where geoscience enthusiasts will be exposed to the professional nuances of the petroleum industry to groom them into future energy soldiers of the fastest growing developing nation, which is hungry for energy. Anil Thomas's report from Noida for DD India.
Guru Nanak Jayanti or Guru Purab is being celebrated with religious fervour across India and the world today. It marks the birth of the first Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who laid the foundation of Sikhism. This year marks the 555th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. On this day, devotees around the world offer prayers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended his warm greetings on the occasion and said that the teachings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji inspire us to further the spirit of compassion, kindness and humility.
गुर प्रसादी रतनो हरि लाभ है, मिटे अज्ञान होई उजियारा। से जंत अर्थात गुरु के प्रसाद से ही हरि लाभ होता है, यानी ईश्वर की प्राप्ति होती है और अहम का नाश होकर प्रकाश फैलता है। देखा जाए तो हम सोचते हैं कि उस कालखंड में अगर गुरु नानक देव जी ने अपना प्रकाश न फैलाया होता तो क्या होता। जब देश जात पात और मत मतांतर के नाम पर कमजोर पड़ रहा था, तब गुरु नानक देव जी ने कहा था, जानहू ज्योति न बुझू जाती, आगे जात न है। अर्थात सभी में भगवान के प्रकाश को देखें, उसे पहचाने, किसी की जाति न पूछिए, क्योंकि जाति से किसी की पहचान नहीं होती, न जीवन के बाद की यात्रा में किसी की कोई जाति होती। गुरु नानक देव जी ने हमें जीवन जीने का मार्ग दिखाया था। उन्होंने कहा था, नाम जपो, कीरत करो, वंड चको, यानी ईश्वर के नाम जप करो, अपने कर्तव्य पर चलते हुए मेहनत करो। मैं आप सभी देशवासियों को प्रकाश पर्व की ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। आज ही देश में देव दीपावली भी मनाई जा रही है। विशेषकर काशी में बहुत भव्य आयोजन हो रहा है। लाखों दियों से देवी देवताओं का स्वागत किया जा रहा है। मैं देव दीपावली की भी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ।
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. After a clinical performance in Centurion to go 2-1 up in the 4-match T20 International Series, India is all set to take on the hosts in the 4th and final T20 International at Johannesburg on Friday. Indian skipper Suryakumar Yadav will eye to secure his 3rd straight T20 International Series win after assuming the captain's role in T20 format on a full-time basis. Except for the 2nd T20, India have outclassed South Africa in all 3 departments and will hope to continue their form on Friday to seal the series 3-1 in their favour. On the other hand, South Africa will go all out to secure a win in the final game and end the series in a 2-2 draw. South Africa lost the ICC T20 World Cup final against India earlier this year. However, both teams may decide to go with a similar playing 11 for the final match at Johannesburg. India opener KL Rahul left the field after being struck on the elbow by fast bowling teammate Prasidh Krishna in an intra-squad match in Perth on Friday, while Virat Kohli emerged to bat despite injury concerns ahead of the Test series against Australia. Rahul was hit by a rising delivery at the Waka and sought medical attention from staff as India's players started their 3-day match simulation a week out from the series opener at Perth Stadium. Virat Kohli also went for scans this week on an undisclosed injury, according to reports, but came out to bat on Friday against a team comprising India A squad members and fringe players. At the Waka, Kohli managed 15 runs before nicking seamer Mukesh Kumar to the slips. So with that, it's a wrap in this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.